How many hours you work does not determine your success. The typical work day is you wake up, you work, you go to lunch, you work again, you come home, you go to have dinner, and that's it. But I've realized that that lifestyle does not work for me. US is not, in my opinion, as great of a place as maybe it was when my parents first arrived. Spain is home to me. I have become the expert at relocating to Spain because I've had to do it so many times. I think people are really, really concerned about what other people think. For building a business particularly, you need to not care even what your parents think, what your siblings think. For me, for example, because I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs, my family was doubting me.
How did you attract the clients?
My first client ever actually found me on ChatGPT, which is crazy.
Hi, Isabella. Welcome to the Naked Thoughts podcast. I'm super happy to have you here today. You're a founder of RelocaSpain, and I think you have a lot to tell to my community, who consists of like other founders, entrepreneurs, freelancers. And before we focus on all the entrepreneurial stuff, I want to focus more on you as a person. So if we take away Reloca, the recent venture you built, who are you really?
Well, first, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. It's a very interesting question. I think deep down, I am a very daring and adventurous person. And I think that's what brought me to my life in Spain and to be a business owner. I'm a big risk taker, and I'm not really scared of many things, maybe bugs and spiders. But besides that, I'm not afraid of anything in life. So I think for me personally, it kind of makes sense doing what I do and living where I live. Other than that, I am a very active person. I have a dog with me here in Spain, and he's like my child. And yeah, I am a daughter of immigrants. So it has which has a lot to do with, why I believe so much in living abroad and moving to a foreign country. And I think my childhood experiences, like anybody's, really shaped who I am today as an adult, which I'm very, very thankful for, and know that I wouldn't be here today without, those beautiful experiences.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your mom is from the Ukraine, right? And your dad is from Lebanon, or at least they have roots from there.
Yes.
You grew up in the US. Now you live in Spain. So it's pretty much a real mixture of cultures. And my question would be, first of all, where do you feel most at home, and why do you think it was Spain where you ended up?
I think it's pretty clear that I feel the most at home in Spain, but the why is what people really wonder, because I'm not Spanish. I don't have Spanish roots. I was born in the US speaking English, so it is a strange journey, but I feel the most at home in Spain. I think a lot of expats or immigrants, whatever you want to call them, feel this way about Spain. And I know it has a lot to do with how welcoming the culture is. I think in the US, it's very normal when you come from an immigrant family to be expected to be very successful in the US, such as going to law school, becoming a doctor, an engineer. Your parents risk their lives to move across the world to give you a better life. And sometimes in the US, that expectation is not reality. I think I grew up with those expectations, like many immigrant children or children of people who came to the US. And I think it's really important to stay true to who you are, because I have to explain to my parents all the time, like, I'm very thankful that, and I'm very fortunate, honestly, to be an American and to have had such beautiful experiences, great education, loving family. But times change, and unfortunately, countries evolve, and the US is not, in my opinion, as great of a place as maybe it was when my parents first arrived, or my dad first arrived. when he was younger. So yeah, I think Spain is home to me. A lot of it also has to do with my family's cultures. I feel very connected to my Lebanese roots in Spain because the cultures are are very similar. And same with Ukraine. Geographically, obviously, I'm in Europe, but I've never been to either of my home countries. Unfortunately, they are often at war and it's not the
Yeah.
safest place to travel. And so for me to be in Spain is the closest I can get to my family's cultures and still be really happy.
For yourself, from your personal perspective and experience, when did Spain stop feeling like a destination, and when did you start feeling, okay, this is my home?
For me, it's when I'm not in Spain. When I first moved to Spain when I was 22, I'm 29 now for reference, and I moved originally to teach English, which is the very typical route for specifically American women or fresh college grads. Typically, women move to teach English. And I left because I was living in Madrid during the pandemic. And obviously, very weird time. I went home. And that experience made me realize, obviously, how much I missed Spain, but also how I don't feel myself in the US. I express all the time how when you live in a foreign country and you see how life can be somewhere else, or you see how beautiful your life can be on the other side of the world, you kind of can't unsee it, you know? And when you have to go back to a life that you had that you don't necessarily agree with, it makes you obviously miss your second home or my now home even more. So I think the experience that I've had having to go back and forth for many different reasons. I've left Spain for many visa reasons, the pandemic, things out of my control. I would never would have left if I didn't have to, but I think those experiences shaped my love for Spain and why I feel so at home here, even though I have no family here at all.
And then, I mean, at some point, you kind of went, I don't know, is famous the correct word, or at least viral with with your content and everything. How did that happen? Maybe to give the audience some context. So Isabella was interviewed like by a Spanish TV channel, and also like I think on TikTok, you went your reels about explaining your journey in Spain went pretty viral. My follow-up question would be like, then when did you find out that, okay, this can be something that I can turn into a business?
Well, I love that question. For me, when I first moved to Spain and taught English, I knew nothing, right? I knew Spanish. I have a Spanish degree. I have an economics and a Spanish degree, and I moved to Spain to perfect my Spanish, and I did just that. But when I had to leave because of the pandemic and I came back, I moved to Murcia instead of back to Madrid. And when I moved to Murcia, my landlord in my apartment was actually the anchor on that TV program. When she found out I was American, she was like, "Oh my God, I'm a news anchor. I have this TV program. I interview women, in Murcia. I would love to have you." And that to me was the craziest experience because I was just like a 24-year-old English teacher in Spain. Like, it's like, why me, But I think some higher power put me in that situation, and made sure that, I met that woman or that something came out of it. And so, of course, I said yes. And yeah, I think that experience made me realize that the more you put yourself out there, the more people will obviously know about you and good things will continue to happen to you. So I continue to post on my TikTok, obviously very casual, girl day in the life content in Spain. But I think what really made me want to turn this into a business is when I actually had to leave Spain again. When I switched visas to the nomad visa. I had a remote job after teaching, and I got laid off and I went back to the US because I had no work. And I knew I wanted to work for an American company or make an American salary. Obviously, if I could maximize my income, I'm always going to. And so I was like, okay, I have to go home right now, as crappy as it is. I need to be in the US. So I kind of went home to figure out what my next move was. And I wanted to build this business for a very long time because I've had so many people contact me on TikTok asking, how did I move to Spain? Or how can they do it too? So I realized that the 3 times that I went back to the US in the 7 years that I've lived in Spain for things out of my control, like losing a job or having to switch visas or the pandemic, which was the craziest experience, that those experiences I've had having to move back home and relocate myself again back to Spain have made me an expert relocator. Whether I like it or not, I have become the expert at relocating to Spain because I've had to do it so many times. And so, yeah, that's when I realized I needed to monetize on what I'm doing because I know I have a lot of really good information and knowledge, and people trust other people who have lives that they want to have. So for me, it was a no-brainer to not go back to corporate America. Even though I was remote, I said, I don't want to go back to corporate America. I don't care how much money I would be offered. It would never would be worth it. And I decided to build this, and I'm very, very thankful that I did.
I think moving to Spain is not easy. Maybe from a work perspective, I think it can be difficult. I think it's happened to me as well that I lost my job, and then at some point I started working as a freelance and got myself like over the water a bit. But at some point, it's difficult, and that was actually the reason why I moved back to Austria, where I'm right now. Yeah, still the love for Spain is there, and then I totally get that. So my next question, it was more like for you a personalized experience. In the end, if you now like help people to do the move and everything, at some point I think it has to be like somehow like standardized or whatever. But how do you ensure that this like experience that it's really keeps being human? What is the value you try to deliver to the people who want to really relocate to Spain?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think honestly, it applies to relocating maybe to any country, but Spain specifically is extra hard, as we know. I think for me, what I hear from all my clients or leads that convert into clients, when I first speak with people, of course, they all, especially in 2026, they all tell me, oh, well, I've been talking with chat, I've been talking with AI, and it's telling me to do this visa. And this is the best option for me given my situation. And we all use AI. Like I would never tell someone not to use it. I'm a big fan, right? But when they speak to me and we have a consultation, I do a free consultation that whether you sign with me or not, I do a free consultation. That's how I make it very personalized. And every time I have that first consultation, by the end of that call, every single person tells me, wow, it is so nice to hear it from somebody who's done it and who's done it multiple times. And knowing that you have had to leave multiple times and still went back and did it again. As difficult as moving to Spain is and the bureaucracy, I think people really value one, learning from somebody or following somebody who was forced to leave and had no choice but to leave and still made it back, because it proves to them that, okay, Spain is really worth it, or it is a beautiful life and this move is the right decision for me. I think that rapport is really important. And also, I think just being American, like there are other relocation companies in Spain, of course. There's probably hundreds or thousands for all I know. But people really, Americans specifically who I work with, really love the fact that I'm an American, because a Spanish relocation company, for example, will never understand the American experience and why Americans want to leave, and what we as Americans deal with in the US with, I can go on, right? Corporate America, the health insurance, quality of living, all these things that you, as a Spanish relocation business, you might hear about from all your clients, but you've never actually lived it. And for me, it's really important that I've lived these experiences that my clients are constantly complaining about, because we build that connection. And all the clients that I work with have access to me on WhatsApp. I try to answer as quickly as I can because I answer quicker than email. But I think having that personal relationship on WhatsApp also builds trust. And I only work with a certain amount of clients at a time so that I can, keep in contact with them so much. And I think it's really scary, especially when they don't speak Spanish. Most of my clients don't speak fluent Spanish like me, which I've gotten to the point. Yeah, I majored in Spanish in university. I have a degree, but it wasn't where it is today because I've lived in Spain for so long. So I think they can do it on their own, but the whole speaking Spanish thing is really stressful for them. So I love doing what I do because I can provide so much support that maybe my competitors can't provide simply by not being American.
And how does the support look like? Do you help them really to get, I don't know, the visas and I do remember that it's really super tough, like to get the NIE or NIF or whatever, to all the tax numbers, bank accounts. There's so many things necessary in Spain. How do you do that for them? And what also do you offer, like some kind of emotional support too?
Yeah, good question. I think of my business as like a one-stop shop for when you want to relocate to Spain. I have different packages and different services because, of course, everyone's situation is different for their job, their income, their family size, their timeline. It's not one size fits all, but I am basically the middleman or middlewoman for everything regarding relocating to Spain. So visas, tax, housing, schools for the kids, pet relocation, health insurance, deciding where in Spain you want to live, which city. And then, as you said, yes, I also provide coaching to my clients. We meet once a month for a coaching call that's like nothing related to visas or anything like that, to talk about emotionally how they are feeling, because I think a lot of people second guess, is this the right move? Am I making the right decision? And when you have never lived in a foreign country, especially a lot of my clients, this is their first time ever moving to a foreign country or leaving the US. I think you don't know what you don't know, obviously. So I think it's really important to provide that support and, make sure that they're aware that they are on the right track. This is the right thing for them. They just won't realize it until they arrive. So yeah, I provide all that support. I think it's important to, honestly, I think the emotional support is what I do most, because having people on WhatsApp and being able to support them through everything, it eases both of our minds. It helps me and them.
Of course, you had all that experience because you lived it many times, but still building a business behind all of that. How did you figure out the first version of Reloca?
That's a great question. And as you can imagine, it's changed many times and it's going to continue to change. That's how you innovate, obviously. But I actually first started this business because I hired a business coach, which I did not realize would be so impactful to me. But she still is my coach. She's amazing. And I think the reason I decided to hire a business coach is because, one, I thought, okay, if I ever want to get in really good shape, you hire a trainer or a nutritionist or whatever. If you want to talk or improve yourself mentally and emotionally and a personal level, you hire a therapist. If I was willing to hire these kinds of people for other parts of my life, but now my business and the future of my career and my business was the most important thing to me at that time, I figured, well, how am I going to do this alone when I don't know anything? I've never started a business and I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. I come from a family of employees. My dad is an engineer. My mom's a teacher. I don't come from an entrepreneur family, at least in my household.
Yep.
So I didn't grow up watching somebody else be a business owner or build a business. And I knew I always wanted to do it and figured that it would just be a million times harder without any support. So I hired a coach, and she's still my coach. And yeah, I think it's really important, if you are doing it alone, that you have somebody on your side.
You actually, well, I know that you had also like kind of a, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of a startup experience in back in when you lived in LA. But still, you actually come from the corporate world. And my question would be: were there any things that you had to unlearn to build something really personal now, and also like a service to other people?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is how many hours you work does not determine your success and your productivity. Like coming from corporate America or even a startup where you're not like the founder, you're just, I was hired
Yeah.
as like a founding member. I was one of the first employees, but I wasn't the founder. And in that case, you're also expected to grind a lot and put in hours, obviously. And I think when you work for somebody else in any capacity, your paycheck is typically determined by how many hours you put in, whether you're an hourly employee or salary. Let's say you're a salary employee and you worked 80 hours versus your coworker who worked 40, you're more likely to get a raise and get a promotion, and put in the time and the work. And my business coach, she's really taught me that hours worked does not equal success or productivity. And for me, for example, like in Spain or even in the US, the typical work day is you wake up, you work, you go to lunch, you work again, you come home, you go to have dinner, and that's it. But I've realized that that lifestyle does not work for me, whether it's in the US or in Spain or anywhere. Like, I'm not a morning person. I would rather sleep in and work till 2 a.m., which is not typical, but it works for me in Spain because my clients are 6 hours behind also in the US. So it actually works really well for me. And I work better. I think a lot of entrepreneurs work better in sprints. Like I work a lot better. Let's say I'll work for like 2-3 hours at a time nonstop. I'll put my phone on do not disturb and just grind for however many hours until I need a break. And then I'll walk my dog, make food, run some errands, whatever, go to the gym, and then work again, in more sprints. And that for me gives me a lot of clarity versus your typical office job where you're basically there for 8 hours, more or less, and you get a 30-minute break to eat or an hour break to eat your lunch. That I think is what causes so much burnout. Like having to work consistently from 9 a.m. to 5 o'clock, for example, when I think corporate America can work or people in the US can have a better life if the hours and the schedule was structured differently. But when you own a business and you are your own boss, you can work whatever the heck you want. You can work on the weekends, you can work at 3 a.m. And that for me, I think is the most important. I don't have to report to anyone. I'm not expected to work, X amount of hours. And also that the amount of hours that you work, like it's so hard when you're a founder of a business, it's so hard to put a number on what your hourly wage is because it fluctuates. Hours you work a week or a day, it's very random. And I also think it's really interesting because I'll have days when I want to work 12 hours. Like I have the creativity or I have an idea or I have to get something done for a client and I'm ready to work 12 hours. And then the next day I'm like, okay, I can't work. I'll work an hour or two and I'll just relax and I'll have to work on the weekend, for example, to make it up. But for me, it works because no, I'm not reporting to anyone. I can do whatever I want. So yeah, I think it's the schedule and being able to do what you want when you want is the best part about it.
Yeah, I mean, this freedom and this flexibility, I'm totally with you that it's one of the biggest advantages and benefits. On the other hand, like building a business alone means that you you wear like every hat. You have to do like marketing, I don't know, finance, probably selling yourself. What's the worst role you had, and how do you handle it? Everything.
Oh man. For me, I wouldn't say it's hard because I come from a background doing kind of operations at a startup. Like I think I became a business owner or a founder because I worked in ops. And when you work in operations, you kind of wear every hat, and you can help the business run. And so I'm comfortable doing almost everything, and I like doing everything because it's very holistic. If I had to say something that I wish I had, an assistant or someone to do it for me, it would be social media. I think a lot of founders feel this way. And it's not that I can't film content, or I actually have a lot of amazing content ideas that come to me like in the shower, for example, but it's editing content and planning it and all of that. It is a full-time job, and I wish I had more time to do it because I think, anyone's business can flourish more when you're more present online.
Visibly.
So yeah, I would say social media. Also, I think the paperwork and chasing down people at least in my role and my business, the nitty gritty like visa documents and all of that, which is funny because my life dream when I was a little girl and in university was to be an immigration lawyer. And I thought that's what I was going to do. And I was going to go to law school in the US. And because my parents are immigrants and I loved, that whole idea. Now that I work with immigration lawyers who I partner with and I see what they do every day, I realized how boring it is. And it's cool to help people move to a foreign country and all of that. But I figured there's a way I could do it that's not just boring, mundane paperwork. And the fact that I can still live out that dream and have more fun with it, for me is really meaningful. And also, I think it wouldn't make sense for me to be an immigration lawyer in the US, for example, because I don't love the US. And it wouldn't make sense for me to help people move there when I don't agree with the system. So instead of helping people move there, I'm not helping people move out. And for me, I think that nitty gritty, the boring, mundane paperwork that I have to do, it's just a small portion of what I do because I have lawyers who help me. But it made me realize that, okay, I am doing the right thing, because if I was a lawyer and went to law school in the US, for example, I would be $250,000 in debt doing something that bores me. So yeah, I'm thankful that I like most aspects of my role. There are some things that are not the most fun, like numbers and tracking invoices, and being autónoma in Spain, that's its own problem. But yeah.
Was there any moment where you thought, okay, this might not be working?
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, I think I thought this might not be working when two things actually come to mind. I started this business while I was in the US. When I got laid off from my job in Spain, I was remote, but I was working for an American company. And when I got laid off, I went back to the US to figure my life out. And I built this company from the US when I was home. And it was fine. And for the time being, it was kind of what I had to do. It wouldn't make sense for me to be living in Spain, paying rent, unemployed, obviously. But I think there was a point when I plateaued. Like, I was getting clients, but then it started to simmer down and I wasn't really making progress for months. And I told myself, it's probably because you're not in Spain and you're not embodying the business that you have and the founder that you are, And obviously it's a big risk to move to a foreign country as is. For me, it wasn't new to move to Spain, but it was new to move to Spain as a founder and as a business owner and as the only person who can guarantee my income. And so I think I was putting off coming back to Spain for quite a while just because I was really worried about what if it doesn't work? what if I don't get clients? Then what happens? And I have to leave again? Like, I don't want to do that. And I have no family here. I can't just go live with somebody. I have, of course, friends here, but I'm not going to go live with my friends with their fiancés, So
Yeah.
I had to figure out, okay, how can I make this work? And so I said, okay, I'm booking the flight. I'm going back to Spain. It's a big risk, but like I told you, I'm a big risk taker. So it was scary, but I was up for the challenge. And the second I got back here, I got clients within this first week. So I think it's important to, one, embody, your business and the founder that you are. And also, it's so important to, if you have a feeling or an intuition that something is going to work once you make a big decision, even like moving to a different state in the US or whatever it may be, I think it's that concept of things will work out once you follow your dreams. Everything will fall into place. You just have to take that leap. And I'm very, very thankful that I did.
I think one of the most difficult moments when you start putting yourself out there and also start offering a service or your own product, finding out how much can I charge?
The worst. I hate it.
How did you deal with that?
Pricing, I still struggle. Like I still have a very hard time knowing what to charge. And I do change it often as I learn and, as I grow. Gosh, when I first tried to figure out pricing, obviously I spoke with my coach. We had a long conversation about how to even create an offer. Like, how do you want to do something, but you don't know what you can offer, what you can provide, what services, and what to charge. And so I worked with my coach first to create an offer. She told me she has a full school community with modules and how to create a business. And so I went through all her modules, did all the homework, and came back to her. And she basically asks you, okay, what do you think you can do? What services do you think you can provide? And all of that. And so I created an offer. Originally, I created an offer that was a 3, 4, or 6 month relocation package for my clients. But I realized it didn't work because everyone's timeline is different, and there are things out of their control that can change their timing, like visa documents or their the pet papers might get delayed, or God forbid someone in their family gets sick, or things happen. So I priced my business and my offer based on how many months I would work with somebody. But then I realized that it doesn't work that way. So I've changed my pricing structure probably 6 times now. And I finally got to the point where I've had to separate all my services, because I realized, okay, well, I can have a 3, 4, 6 month package, but not everybody wants everything in that package. Some people have a place or let's say, for example, they have a boyfriend in Spain and they have a place to live with their boyfriend. Well, they don't need the housing support and all of that. Or let's say they have their own lawyer they want to hire. They don't need the legal support. So I kind of had to begin to separate all my offers and services. And instead of being like just a relocation coach, I'm starting to become like a full relocation agency, which I did not expect, but that's kind of the world I'm in. But soon it's going to be very difficult to sustain by myself, just because there's so many moving pieces. I'm going to need to hire help, which is, I think, a very good problem to have. But pricing for me is the most stressful topic, internally figuring it out and speaking to clients, because you don't know people's money mindset. You don't know how much savings they have. You can't ask them. Obviously, you have no idea. And one person can be a very high net worth client. Another person can be the complete opposite, but you have to stick to your prices, and you cannot discount just because you think someone might not be as well off. For example, it hurts you obviously and is disrespectful to them, but I think sticking to my pricing is very, very difficult because there's so many moving pieces in the work that I do. But it'll change again. I'm sure it'll change next week. I'll have to restructure the services, but it's fun. It's a game for me, and I enjoy it.
And once you get more clear on the pricing on your offer, how did you attract the clients?
My first client ever actually found me on ChatGPT, which is crazy. Like, to be able to say that is just crazy, which is why I'm a big advocate of AI. I got my first client thanks to AI. So, but the reason that Chat suggested me to that person is, I believe, because of my SEO on my website. Someone can Google search, Spain relocation company, but there are, obviously, I have competitors. And when you're a new company or a new website, I guess, you're not going to come up first. Obviously, I'm not paying for Google ads. I'm not paying to be the first one up there, but I made sure to hire a really good website designer who also would do SEO work for me. And it clearly paid off because Chat suggested me to that person simply by the words that she was searching, So that was really cool. I think most of my clients in general find me through Google search, which again is SEO. And I'm actually going to be updating my website soon. It's just a landing page, and I'm creating like a full, 4-page website to even improve that even more, because I'm learning that the Google search is the most common outlet that people find me. But I've had other people find me through TikTok, Instagram, even LinkedIn, referrals, word of mouth. But I'm learning that the SEO for my business is what is working the best.
That's super interesting. I think I've never heard that ChatGPT brings you clients, but now, of course.
And Gemini too.
I guess soon we are already. I think they already are placing some ads and everything. We now talk like a lot of like the practical stuff. Okay, how do I price my product and how do I sell myself? What I'm now interested to know is, from your personal perspective, from a mental perspective, did you have any doubts about yourself, about this project? How did you overcome that kind of fear of putting yourself out there?
I love this question because I'm really big into mindset. And so I think this topic is the most important when you are a founder. For me, I think I told you, I wanted to build this business for years. And I've told myself everything. I'm too young. I'm not qualified. I'm crazy. Like, I've never done it before, so I can't do it, which is a very typical thing that I think founders tell themselves, that are a big blocker, is that I've never done it before, so I can't. But obviously, you don't know until you do it. So personally, I think, again, my coach, she emphasizes what she calls shadow work, which is basically all the different shadows that can come up when you're doing something for the first time, or specifically starting a business, which are things like fear of rejection, fear of judgment, boundaries, imposter syndrome, all these different things that can come up, which again are things that come from, unfortunately, childhood trauma within your family, school when you're younger, kids, bullies, siblings, all these things that you don't realize do follow you into your adulthood. But for me, I think constantly working on the shadow work and the things that come up, like when something comes up, tackling it right when it happens. And so me, for example, when I had a doubt, let's say about posting something online, or do I want to invest money in a website? Is that even worth it? These things are things that come up all the time. The first thing I always do when I'm doubting something, well, now I meditate daily. I was going to say I meditate on it, but now I've incorporated meditating into my daily work routine. Like on my Notion daily to-do list, the first thing is meditate. And I notice that if I don't do it right away, I'm super anxious throughout the day. I'm an anxious person, but it makes it worse if I don't. And I think meditating on things that are coming up for you. And people hate when I say meditate because like, oh, I don't know how to do that. It's so hard. I'm like, there's nothing to do. You just think, like, you're just sitting with yourself and thinking about what's coming up. It's about just simmering and letting things simmer and sitting with the things that are coming up. And that's all meditating is. And just being aware of how you're feeling and what's coming up for you, I think is the only way to overcome those things, you know? And so I've spent a year, I guess, I've worked with my coach for a year on working on these things, and new things come up all the time. It's never going to stop. That, I think, is what comes with being a founder, is constantly doubting yourself and the business and the future of what's going to happen. And I think I say this a lot, being a little delulu or being a little delusional, honestly, is what gets you further, because you are the boss of your own life. And if you tell yourself and are a little delusional, like, I'm going to be super successful, or if you want, I'm going to be a millionaire, whatever your goal is.
Yeah.
If you tell yourself it's going to happen, you will do whatever it takes and you will make anything work in order to make that happen. I think that itself is the most important aspect of the mindset stuff. Just being a little crazy, a little delusional.
That's a good advice. I think a lot of people who are watching right now maybe have some idea that they haven't acted on. They're thinking about it like you did. You thought like for a long time about the idea of founding Reloca. What do you think is the real reason most people then in the end don't start?
Fear of judgment of other people. I think people really care about what other people think. Even if they pretend that they don't, they really do. A lot of that, unfortunately, comes from like being in school as a little kid, you know, and being around so many people who would gossip and judge you for clothes you wear, you know, whatever, what sport you play. I think people are really, really concerned about what other people think, which you should be. You should never care what other people are going to talk about you regardless, whether it's good or bad. People talk and we all do it. You know what I mean? It's not always considered gossip, but people naturally, as humans, we talk about other people. And I think if you can have people talk about you in a way like, oh, that person is starting a business, like, oh, they're doing this, they're doing that. I think it's better to have someone talk about you in a good light than in a bad light, you know? And so if you can overcome the thought that, oh, people are going to judge me or talk about me, well, they're already doing it. They're going to be doing it anyway. So I think it's really important to not care what other people think. And it's very simple advice that I know gets thrown around a lot in life in general. But I think for building a business particularly, you need to not care even what your parents think, what your siblings think. Yeah. You know, I think for me, for example, because I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs, my family was doubting me. Like, oh, is this a good idea? Are you going to make any money? Like, is this even an industry that exists? Like, my family doesn't live in Spain, so they didn't think that this would be a success. And it's not their fault, right? You don't know what you don't know. It's not my family's fault for doubting me. Of course, as my parents, they want me to be okay and to succeed. But I think even people that you're closest, it's usually people who you're closest with that you're most concerned who are going to be judging you and talking about you. So just realize they already are and they're going to regardless. So might as well be something good.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think it's mostly people maybe we grew up with, or like you said, family, friends, colleagues, or whatever. We are concerned about what they really think. Oftentimes we overthink it a bit because in the end, yeah, some people might care, but the rest of the world doesn't really care.
Yeah, it's like people aren't thinking about you as much as you think.
Yeah, maybe exactly.
Your name may get brought up in a conversation, right? It's going to happen. but they're not thinking about you and judging you as much as you are in your head. So yeah, I think it's
Exactly.
just important to block out the noise.
So, what advice would you give to those kind of people who who are feeling that fear of judgment and are afraid to start, but just put themselves out there?
I want to say just do it anyway. I know that's it's very hard to envision it, and I can tell anyone just go do it. Who cares what other people think? But you have to do the inner work. You have to do the things like mindset or meditation. If you can get past worrying about what other people might think of you, you can literally do anything that you want. You can run a marathon. You can be a bodybuilder. You can build a business. You can move across the world. You can be a millionaire. There are so many things that you can do if you just didn't care about the judgment. And I wish it was easier said than done because that was me a year ago. I didn't think I could do it. And I live to tell the tale, I say. But if you don't feel like you can do it, I think it's really important to have a coach or have support, or a mentor. If you have someone in your family who's an entrepreneur who can mentor you, who's really willing to help you, I think that's a big privilege. Follow your dreams. It's that simple. Just really follow your dreams.
What kind of company do you want it to be like in 10 years, for example? And what kind of person do you want to have become building it?
Oh, I love that question. In 10 years, or 5, hopefully, but let's say in 10 years, I would love to build a global company. I would love for this to be multiple countries throughout the world, not just Spain. Obviously, I had to start with Spain because that's my expertise, but I'd love to help people move, or obviously have a team of people helping people move all across the world. For me, it's so important Spain is my thing, but I know it's not everyone's, obviously. And I think it's really important to leave your hometown and your comfort zone. And so if I can help people, or if my business can help people do that, depending on wherever the heck they want to go, China, Portugal, Spain, Brazil, wherever, that for me would just be my dreams would be, that's my dream. It's just my ultimate dream. I want to be a global citizen. I will say that is a dream of mine. I know that's not a real title, but I think I spend so much time in Spain. Like I'm not traveling the world a lot because I love Spain so much. I travel within Spain.
Yeah.
But if I was able to grow this, and I know I will, it's just a matter of when, multiple countries, I think it's important that I travel to those places and know what it's like and hire, teams on the ground in those places who are the experts in those countries. And I think being a global citizen is one of the most beautiful privileges that we can have, because I don't think that borders should be real. I don't think, I get for safety and things like that, we have to have laws and rules or there'd be chaos, of course. But I think if you zoom out from the globe, like these borders are fake, and we should be able to travel as we please around the world, or, around our continents at least. And I think if people can experience that, that is like the ultimate level of like being a human, like being able to connect with other humans across the world, regardless of what language you speak or what passport you have. I think it's a very beautiful privilege to connect with people from all over the world. And then on a personal note, I think I really want to be known, or I want to build something. I want people to know me as someone who just does what I love, because I have had jobs before where I took them for a paycheck or a nice salary, for example, but I hated what I was doing, and you could see it in my personality and my day-to-day. And I think if I can do what I love for the rest of my life, I can inspire other people to do that as well. And yeah, I don't think anyone should take a job for money. I did it,
Yeah,
but it sucks. It's not. It never works well. It never ends up well.
that's a good point because my next question would have been like, imagine that all the visibility. I mean, you have been on a TV, you have been quite successful on TikTok, on social media, disappeared. No followers, no press, whatever, no clients. What would you still? Who would you still be? What would you do? And would you still live in Spain? Was my question. So, but as you mentioned, you would be like would like to be a global citizen.
If everything disappeared and I had to start from scratch, I still think my business would be a Spanish based business or something about moving to Spain. I had a professor at my university. I went to the University of Michigan, and if she's probably going to watch this podcast and know that I shout her out, but her name is Tina. She taught a class that was networking your way to an international career, and she changed my life. And if you can do one thing forever that is your passion, it's never going to feel like work. And you're not going to care how much your hourly wage is. Even if, for example, like I have some clients who might be more needy than others, which naturally happens. Like, I don't care if they need extra hours from me or extra help, because to me, it barely feels like work. It's just fun. Like, it feels like a creative project, and being able to get paid for it is just a perk. And obviously, you have to make a living, of course. You have to be able to provide for yourself financially. But if you can do that and have that much fun with it, life becomes so easy, you know?
What does your definition of success look like?
Oh, I have so many answers.
Well, we still have time.
It's not monetary, I will say that. For me, a definition of success in a simple definition or word would be freedom. Location freedom, financial freedom, mental freedom. I think so many people say money doesn't buy you happiness, which I understand the phrase. I think we all get the point of it. But I think there's a different way to word that, because yes, more money might not make you, they say more money, more problems, you know, with more money comes higher bills. You spend more money, you upgrade your life, and you can go into debt, right? So more money doesn't always mean more happiness. But if you can make more money and be following your dreams at the same time, like, and have the freedom to do whatever the heck you want, that is ultimate happiness. Freedom and independence is what bring people happiness. And usually you achieve that by making more money. You know, if you're an employee in corporate America forever, you don't have freedom. You don't have independence. Yes, you can climb the ladder and make more money, but it usually comes with more responsibility and hours and stress. So I think thinking about it in a different lens, where more money might not buy you happiness on paper, but it's the freedom and the independence that comes with it that is what brings you ultimate happiness.
Great answer. I totally agree with that. I think money can be leverage for you. Of course, it's not everything, but it's also not. I think it's not possible without it, or to chase your dreams. Really, yeah. I enjoyed the episode so much so far. We're reaching now the end of our conversation.
Okay.
I have some questions left. Question number one, I'm gonna ask you is, what is the most valuable advice you have been ever given or received?
Advice. Oh gosh, I can think of so many things. I think the most valuable advice I've ever been given is to make sure what you're doing for work is your deep passion. And it sounds very cliche, I know, but life usually becomes very easy and you're doing what you love. Whether it doesn't have to even be work, like sports, you know, hobbies, living where you want, like I am in Spain. I think just caring, it sounds a little selfish, but putting yourself first and doing things that you love is only going to make your life easier. And I think a lot of people worry like I said, what other people might think if they do a certain thing. Like it might be something too niche or too weird to like an average person, But yeah, life becomes very easy and honestly very fun when you're just doing things that you're passionate about.
On the other hand, what is the worst advice you've been followed for too long?
The worst advice that I've ever followed, and I followed for most of my life, probably until last year, is to do the bare minimum. Or I guess what I'm trying to say is follow the lead of everybody else, do what everybody else is doing. Like being different is hard when nobody else is doing it. But honestly, doing what other people are doing doesn't make you any special. No offense to people. Like, I think if you have some way to differentiate yourself or stand out in a certain thing, like definitely take that and run, because you can become a superstar. You can become a famous singer or actor or whoever. There's to you, it might be a weird quirk, or I guess is what I'm trying to say, but it might be the one thing that makes you successful. So,
yeah.
I
think it goes in line a bit with, I don't know if you know about Ikigai, like finding something that combines like your passion, what you're good at, and but you still can bring value to other people. And I also like try to pursue that, and I think that should be also like the goal. Other than that, I think I don't know what really the meaning of life is, no? So
yeah.
What is something you're currently struggling with, even though most of the people wouldn't expect it?
I think when you are a founder or at least a sole business owner, I struggle a lot with accountability. It might not look like it, but I do. Living in Spain is a very fun and beautiful experience, but it has its challenges when everyone is out for tapas and drinks and the sun is shining 330 days a year where I'm at. It's really hard to stay focused in a place like this where the weather is always beautiful and people are always out, enjoying time.
I totally agree.
For me, it means maybe sometimes leaving the house, because I work from home, but maybe leaving the house and going to work at a co-working space or a coffee shop, or asking a friend who has a remote job, for example, to spend time with you and you guys just work together. I think when you live in a foreign country by yourself with no family and you have your own business and you work by yourself, it can be very lonely. And I'm a very social person, very, extroverted. But one thing I've learned by building a business is that it gets very lonely at the top, when you are doing something that other people normally wouldn't do and you are finding success from it. It becomes very lonely, and it's hard to be accountable when you're constantly by yourself. I'm always by myself. Even though there's tons of people outside my balcony every day, I'm always working by myself. And that accountability is really, really difficult, which is why I still work with my coach, because she holds me accountable. And I think it's really important to have, whether it's friends, a coach, or whoever, accountability helps push you forward, So, accountability for sure.
What advice would you give to people, or to someone who wants to like start a new project, start their own business, make a big life change, move countries, but feels paralyzed by fear?
Ooh, paralyzed by fear. That's a big one. See, it's really hard because I'm not a very fearful person, but when it came to building my business, fear came up. I think the advice I would give is to realize that it's not going to happen overnight, and it's probably going to take longer than you expect it to. And to just like be okay with that. Like let it happen when it's meant to happen. Like when I came home from Spain and wanted to build this business, I thought I would build it in 3 months and be back in Spain, but that was not the case. Usually it takes longer than you're assuming it will. I'm still building. I mean, I'm not anywhere near where I want to. I think when you're a founder, It's never going to be perfect and you're constantly building, but just take it day by day and know that you're going to have days that are really, really, really hard where either you can't work or you don't want to work,
Yeah.
and you will have very inspiring days or weeks, where you can go crazy and put a lot of time into it. But yeah, just be kind to yourself and be patient, because greatness does not happen overnight. That's for sure.
The last and final question: when you strip away your business roles, achievements, what still gives meaning to your life?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. My family gives, even though I'm very far from them, my family gives me meaning. I think I'm a middle child, and as much as I hate to admit it, I have middle child syndrome. And so I think that has made me be an overachiever in a way and want to stand out. And I think I do it because I would love one day to be able to say, I can retire my parents early, or take care of them financially when they're old. My parents are around 60 right now, so they have some time, but, I would love to be able to be that person, which I know puts a lot. I've talked to my coach about this. It's a lot of pressure. I put a lot of pressure on myself. But I do that for my family. I do it for my parents. And I mean, when you come from a family of refugees on both sides who have completely changed their life to give you a better life, it's very cliche, but the least you can do is do everything you can to be able to reciprocate it. So yeah, my family, my friends, I'm very active in sports, and I think the friendships that I have maintained throughout my life, despite moving around so much, I've lived in Michigan where I grew up. I've lived in California where my parents now live, and I've lived 3 different cities in Spain. And for me to be able to maintain friendships from my childhood or high school or university, while I have been such a nomad, for me is super important. And they're like, my girlfriends are like my sisters. I think the older you get, the smaller your circle becomes, but those people that stick with you become even more important. And yeah, I think when I'm far away in Spain, I'm on FaceTime with somebody all the time. And it makes my life here more meaningful because I know that there are people back home who care about me. I have to go back home again one day. So yeah, I would say my people.
Still, you have like one companion all the time with you, right?
Yes, my dog. He's finally taking a nap now, but yeah, he is. He's with me all the time in Spain. There's maybe a few days a year I'm not with him if I ever have to put him in daycare for travels, but he's typically with me. So he gives me meaning. He's a mini doodle, and if anyone has a mini doodle, they know that they're very, very attached. Almost annoyingly follows me everywhere, but I realize that we are all each other has here, and he is my baby.
Well, Isabella, that's a beautiful ending.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. I think we can learn a lot from Isabella's journey, from a personal perspective, but also like from a business perspective. If anybody from the US was watching or is watching and you want to relocate to Spain, please get in touch with Isabella. She will help you. And thank you so much, and see each other soon.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed speaking with you.